Happy New Year to you and to your family. One thing about the unelected oligarchs who want to control the world, and you and me, is that they've stopped hiding their plans. The latest example of this is Herr Dr. Klaus Schwab's New Year's Day epistle to the world. Schwab, of course, is the founder and CEO of the World Economic Forum. This supervillain out of central casting has big plans for you, but just not plans for your prosperity or security. On January 1st, he wrote that 2021 should be the year of the Great Reset, unquote. And along with New World Order slogans like Build Back Better and Stakeholder Capitalism, which is the title of his upcoming new book, he's now calling for the year 2021 to be a new year zero. For people of a certain age, year zero should ring a bell because that's what the murderous communist dictator Pol Pot renamed 1975 when he took over his country and ushered in one of the worst genocides in human history. What happened during and after year zero there didn't exactly work out well for ordinary Cambodians. Herr Dr. Schwab accidentally reveals a lot about himself when he writes, quote, "The pandemic has reminded us that we cannot aim solely for higher GDP and profits on the assumption that maximizing these indicators automatically redounds to the benefit of society," unquote.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Well, sorry, Klaus, but most normal people want to get back to their everyday lives in which they're loving their families and earning a living and worshiping God and playing Scrabble and walking on the beach getting fresh air. On the other hand, the unconstitutional and unscientific social distancing, the clearing out of hospital wards for crowds that never arrived, wearing a literally useless facial diaper, watching church services on your laptop, the world's highest spike in anxiety and suicide, watching your parents and grandparents die alone in retirement centers is not any sane person's idea of a new normal. Only people called billionaires aim solely for higher GDP and profits, unquote. He goes on. A renewed focus on public health, net zero pledges, and the arrival of stakeholder capitalism metrics will ensure that 2021 will be a new year zero. Now, he tries to claim that the original year zero followed World War II, when the world was coming back from the devastation of the global military conflict in which we, Britain, Canada, US, won over Japan and Nazi Germany. He says, the year ahead could be a historic one, and in a positive way. 75 years after the original year zero that followed World War II, we once again have a chance to rebuild anew from the wreckage of war, unquote. But no one called the end of the war year zero. That term is straight out of the Southeast Asian communist playbook, and now expanded out to all nations. Schwab goes on, this time the focus is on the material world, but also on much more. We must aim for a higher degree of societal sophistication and create a sound basis for the well-being of all people and the planet. He goes on, neoliberalism, a staunch commitment to free markets and limited government, reigned in the West, where it delivered decades of prosperity and progress. But this model has broken down. While COVID-19 delivered the final blow, it has been clear for the last 2 decades that the post-war model is no longer sustainable, environmentally or socially, owing to today's sky-high levels of inequality, unquote. Yes, Klaus, we need to usher in your brave new world order, a big brother utopia that George Orwell never dreamed of. Actually, he did dream of it in his prophetic novel, 1984. I don't remember voting for Klaus Schwab. But he's appointed himself as the ringleader of this new plan to eliminate the sky-high levels of inequality. Again, unquote. In fact, he's created a three-pronged plan that he calls three pillars to build on. First, 2021 could be the year when we bring COVID-19 under control. If current predictions hold, several vaccines will become available. If they allow us to beat back the pandemic, we should undertake a reckoning of what we've learned from this crisis. Although vaccines can bring stability, they're not a panacea. Like a peace settlement that ends but does not reverse the devastation of war, stopping the pandemic is merely a first step. He says the greater challenge will be to fix the structural flaws in our systems and institutions, many of which have failed to provide the necessary care and services to all who need them, unquote. When someone identifies a preventable, treatable, largely non-lethal virus with an exceedingly high recovery rate with the devastation of war, you know they're lying. His second pillar are wannabe overlord rights. 2021 will be the year when every major government, as well as broad private sector coalitions, commit to a net zero target for greenhouse gas emissions. With Joe Biden having been elected president, the U.S. is expected to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement and aim for 100% clean energy and net zero emissions by 2050. Finally, thirdly, the year 2021 will be the year when companies pivot from a strictly short-term profit orientation towards strategies focusing more on the long-term viability of their businesses and on the interests and contributions of stakeholders, unquote. And then he starts to do some soft book sales on his upcoming stakeholder capitalism tome. And he ends with this: these three major developments, a renewed focus on public health and resilience, net zero pledges, and the arrival of stakeholder capitalism metrics, all but ensure that 2021 will be a new year zero. As with the aftermath of World War II, the building blocks are already in place, he says, providing a foundation on which to construct a new era of improved well-being, inclusive economic growth, there it is, and climate action, unquote. This is the same ambitious oligarch who said this on July 8th of what I can now happily call last year. Listen to Herr Dr. Schwab. Did you catch that? He literally called his predicted cyber attack a pandemic. If this isn't a mask drop and the exposure of an evil agenda, I don't know what is. Hey, Dr. Schwab, how does it feel knowing that the crisis you're warning us about and threatening us with is the same crisis you're cooking up to help spark your Great Reset? Folks, we need to resist with all of our strength this Great Reset, this dark winter year zero, this building back better, this stakeholder capitalism, all of which is garbled code for godless communism. Christian civilization may be in tatters, but it can be restored, and not with a Great Reset, and not built back better, but with a resurgence of reasonable faith and the awareness that politics depends on culture and culture depends on religion, which of course raises the question of political leadership and what kind of culture we want and which religion is true. Subscribe to this channel and find out more. Hit that notification bell. Also, check out Coffin Nation in the link below. Find out what culture builders all over the world are currently enjoying. And listen to The Patrick Coffin Show, the podcast on faith, culture, politics, movies, everything else in between, which drops every Tuesday. God loves us, and there's nothing we can do about it. Happy New Year.